There should be 5 more, so we'll just give it another minute or so. Should we make a start and then I can let more people in as they join, maybe?
Yeah, let's do that.
Of course. Okay, so thank you for everyone who's already joined for a career in advertising. The only thing I'll sort of say to start off is if you just keep yourself muted for now. If you've got any questions, if you want to write it in the chat box, and then at the end we'll have a question and answer session. Okay, so just to introduce ourselves and who's on the call today. So we are the media planning and strategy team at Media Agency Group. We're an independent agency based in Manchester. So I'm Amy, I'm head of our team in Manchester, and my background is TV production at ITV and then within the marketing team at McArthur Glen Designer Outlets.
I'm Meg. I went to Staffordshire University and I've been working in advertising for the past 2 years, and I did advertising and brand management as my course. It was like a mix of creative and marketing as well.
I'm Molly. I went to York St John myself. I did film and media studies and then a master's in marketing, and then I started working at Media Agency Group as a planner last November.
Wonderful. So before we start the presentation, we've just got a really short video to show you, just so you can see who MAG are and what we did in 2019, just to give you a little bit of flavour of who's talking to you today. So that's just a little bit about us at Media Agency Group. So before we move on to the kind of agency and the different roles in the agency, and then a few tips that will go on, we just wanted to show you a little bit of data about advertising, about TV spend. So the first thing that we're going to show you is a year-on-year spend of the different medias. As an independent agency and as an independent media planning team, we plan across all of these different media, so it's really important for us to understand how these medias fit together, where has more spend, where is the opportunity and where is the growth and the potentially decline. So something like this obviously can offer us data trends. We can see that TV is massive alongside digital, which is still growing. I will note that this digital, it doesn't include social media spend, paid social media spend, as that data is just really difficult to get hold of. So digital, we're talking sort of programmatic and Google in that. We can also see things that are consistent, so things like cinema and radio. It's a media that's sort of always there, it's always present, and the spend is pretty much similar over the past 4 years. And we can also see what's in decline. So things like direct mail is slightly in decline, and press is in decline as well, with more people moving online. Something that's really key to note about media channels is that everything works better when it works together. So here we've got an example of a popular brand which you'll all recognise, which is Just Eat. So Just Eat takes advantage of reaching audiences in different environments, making sure that everything they do is in front of audiences to make sure that they are top of mind at all times. So that's from TV sponsorships to PR and experiential at festivals, to taxis, to railways, to rat trams, to outdoor, and then obviously that will drive through to digital advertising as well, just to make sure that every weekend you're going on the Just Eat app. And I think they do it brilliantly, mixing the creative with the messaging with the right environments. And Just Eat is a brilliant brand if you ever want a case study for that. Something else that we've got, which I think is a nice little bit of information for you to potentially take forward into your career, potentially going on to interviews, a little bit of knowledge about the industry, is the top 10 category spenders in 2019. So we can see here that entertainment and leisure is top, followed by finance, travel and transport, with computers having the highest growth, with 29% growth year on year, which is brilliant. The top 10, it doesn't change that much, but you can see sort of a shift in the top 10. Across all of these, the year-on-year growth and the category spenders, I think this will be really interesting to look at the end of this year. If you can find the data, or if you're potentially in a job then, have a look at it at the end of this year. Because this is where, for the first time in a very long time, we'll end up seeing some changes, obviously because of the current situation that we're in. It's affected media spend, so we can see what came out of that, what was in decline, what was as a growth for that as well. So those are just a little bit of charts. So I'll pass you over to Meg now, who can run through agencies and some different roles in the agencies.
Yeah, so I know a lot of you come from different courses, so your job preferences are going to be slightly different, but something that I wish that I'd known is all the different types of agencies or companies that you can actually go into. So obviously you can work in agencies that are just specific for a certain job role, but looking along the line of the main ones, there's group-owned agencies, so they tend to be massive companies that have clients like Amazon, so massive clients that need all that attention from large teams. So going into a group agency, you actually might only work on one client, but you'll have a job role within that team. So it'd be you'd manage the social media, or you'd manage the creative, but that one team in that group agency is just for one client. They tend to have quite a couple of different companies that make up their group, so they can be international, and they're massive companies. But then on the other hand, in independent agencies, which is where we work, so we work across all different clients. We plan campaigns short, we plan them long. So independent agencies are a little bit more flexible and different across the board, but it's important to look at maybe whether you'd want to go into a big company or whether you'd want to learn over a lot of different clients in a smaller one. And then specific to job roles, there's PR, so looking at how clients and businesses, how their reputation is upheld, and also focusing on PR stunts and experiential, so when you see people on the streets and handing out leaflets and samples and stuff, they deal with stuff like that. And then digital, so Amy said, digital spend is pretty big, and it is obviously something that's going to be growing in the future. So digital agencies, there's loads and loads of different digital agencies, big and small. But if your background of your course is in something digital, like social media, or you're interested in maybe more data analysing, digital agencies might be for you. And then creative, I saw a couple of people had come on from slightly more creative courses. These agencies can range from broadcast, so making TV ads and radio ads, coming up with branding, so coming up with the whole personality of a brand and their strap lines and things like that. So there is specific agencies that are just for creative, and the bigger agencies tend to partner up with these to get their creative ideas and work together with clients as well. Can you go on to the next slide? So obviously within these agencies, these job roles might differ slightly, but there's kind of a couple of like simple ways to break it down. So you could either work for an agency, you could work for a media owner, so like for example ITV, like you could just go into ITV and be like a media planner within like just TV, or you could go directly and work for a brand, so like go into Coca-Cola and be part of their digital team or part of their creative team. So there's like those three different pathways that you might want to look into. But overall, like the directors, so obviously directors will sit above every team and make sure that everything's running smoothly. Account managers, they're the people that are more client facing. So if you're interested in like maybe like presenting and like being like the face of the company and actually dealing with your clients directly, that might be something for you. And then sales, so the sales team tend to be the first contact when clients will call into the agency. So they'll like take in all the information that the client might they might have any questions about like the media that they want to run. So the sales team will either directly like ring companies to try and like not necessarily find business, but if they think that there's opportunities that could be held, they'll be ringing them up and trying to see like how our agency can help them. And then digital team, so this is kind of the same as what I've just mentioned, so digital, PR and creative. These three roles can sit either within an agency or in separate companies based on where you might want to go into. And then media buyers, so personally we're a media agency, so there is slight differences between media agencies and advertising agencies. So we specifically buy the media on behalf of the client, so I'll go into what we do when we plan it, but after we've planned it as a team, we'll go to our media buying team and they'll look into like what's available, when it's going to go out, and then they'll actually track it and make sure that everything's going live. So that role is pretty big in the industry as well. And then the media planner, so we'll give you a little short kind of like step by step of how we'll get and like approach a brief. So obviously the account managers, they're dealing with their client, and that client will have a brief for us. It'll have a budget, it'll have timings and exactly what they want to do. So then from that it goes into us like looking into it and like pulling out any insights that we think that might be good for the client, and then we'll probably research some competitors. So like if it was Just Eat, we might research what Uber Eats have been doing, we might research what Deliveroo's been doing, just to kind of get a feel of the market and like where their competitors might be and how we can help them overtake them. So we actually have a system where we can log on and see what Deliveroo and Uber Eats have booked in the past like 5 years, to see what might be working for them that we might be able to take advantage of for Just Eat. And then sorry, I'm just moving everyone around the page while I go across to each one. And then we go on to audience analysis. So obviously Just Eat, it might have a specific type of audience, and say they're doing a student campaign, we might look into the top cities that have the most students and just focus the campaign there to make it a little bit more cost effective. So we'll look into like what students are doing online, we'll look at what they're doing like watching TV, so they might be watching more video on demand on their iPads than a TV, so we might choose to do video on demand instead, just to make it a little bit more effective. And then when we've got all these like nuggets of information, we'll start planning the campaign for the budget and the timing. And then once all that's booked in, we'll even look to track it to make sure that everything's working, which is quite interesting, because then we can like change things like here and there. So like if it's a TV campaign, we might look in if an ITV show is working better than another. We might look to like move budgets around and to like the more effective shows that the audience is watching and clicking through to the website and stuff. But we will pitch all of this to the client. We might do it with the account managers, or the account managers might just take it and deliver it themselves, but ultimately we create the plan that is then delivered back to the client, and then hopefully they sign it off. that's how it works.
Thanks, Meg. We just wanted to finish off with moving forward to give you some resources and tips that you can take when applying for jobs. So just to start with, there's a few useful online resources that you might want to look into. The IPA are the Institute of Practitioners in Advertising. They're a professional body that support UK advertising agencies. Our company, we're a member of the IPA, and one of the main benefits through it is the continuous professional development they offer. So we've all done a lot of online courses and qualifications, webinars. They're usually quite expensive, but at the minute with the pandemic, they're offering free courses and webinars for non-members and students. So if you've got some free time, it might be worth just looking into, or even just familiarising yourself with the website and who they are. Thinkbox, again, they're the body for commercial TV in the UK. If you register on their website, it's free just with your email. You can access case studies, research into the effectiveness of TV, webinars. They've just released the book, A Year in TV for this year, which is again free to download on the website. It's quite long, but if you have a flick through, there's some key charts and stats in there. Radio Centre, again the same, but for radio, so you might start to get an idea of which areas you're more interested in by looking into these different parts. And then additionally, I'd suggest, you might have heard of this, but Google, they offer a Google Digital Garage. It's online learning courses that are free. We've all done their foundation certificate in digital marketing. It says it's 40 hours long, but it's really not. You could do it in a lot shorter time. And then you can put it on your CV and your LinkedIn profile. Even if you're not interested in digital, it's more of you get general knowledge around marketing as well. And I think with digital growing so much, like Amy said before, it's just useful knowledge to have when going into this industry. And then additionally, just online marketing and advertising magazines, Campaign and The Drum. If you go into interviews, you won't be expected to know everything, but you might be expected to just have a little bit of knowledge about what's happening in the industry right now. And then that definitely carries on when you start a job. Every Monday, as planners, we'll report to the rest of the team on any changes that are happening or big things happening in the industry, big campaigns, just to fill everyone in and keep everyone in the know. As well as that, like Meg said before, you might possibly be interested in working across an agency, across all the media formats, or you might just be interested in one. And then if you want to get more of an idea about each individual one, these are the media owners that Meg mentioned before. So for out of home, for your billboards and your transport advertising, will go through Global, Ocean, JC&Co and Clear Channel. So if you go onto their websites, you'll get a bit more of an idea about what out of home is, who they are, and it might spark your interest, or again, it might be press that you're more leaning towards. So for press, you've got Bauer, who have magazines like Closer and Grazia, and then film magazines like Empire, Hearst, who have Cosmopolitan and Elle, and then your Mail Metro Media with your Daily Mail newspaper, Metro newspaper, and then Condé Nast, who have Vogue and Wired. Again, radio, Bauer crop up again. They have their radio division with Kiss, Absolute, and then local radios like in York, it's Viking FM. Global have your Heart and Capital, amongst many others. Communicorp we use for Smooth, and then TalkSport come in handy for your more male-focused clients. And then TV, you're more likely to have heard of with ITV, Channel 4, Sky and Turner. Turner have your Boomerang and your Cartoon Network. So if you're interested in TV and you wanted to look more into their websites, but the advertising sales side, you'll go to ITV Media for sales and then Sky Media. And then on those websites, they have case studies looking into effective ad campaigns, and then sponsorships, which I know we're all personally quite interested in. They're quite good, and partnerships and product placements. So yeah, if you go into each of those websites, just if you have time, it'll give you more of an idea. And if you're going into interviews and have a bit of knowledge, then I think it's not knowledge you're expected to have at that level, so it might help you to stand out. And then finally, we just wanted to end up with some tips, interview tips, job hunting tips. So these are 4 key points that the directors have actually passed down to us about key things that they look for in employees when they're interviewing. So firstly, they just wanted to say that you should understand the different kinds of agencies. So Meg went through them before. And if you think about what your interests are and what you want to do, you might realise that there's a certain agency type that you're more suited to, and then that can narrow down your application process at the start. Secondly, do your research. Understanding the company you're applying for is key, not just who started it and who the clients are, but if you dig a bit deeper, look into their values, where they sit in the market, and look at what they do deliver to their client to get more of an understanding of who that company are. Thirdly, remember that the company will be a commercial organisation. This is something that I know I didn't focus on at uni. We never got to the sort of money-making side of things. It wasn't something I thought about before going into jobs. So the companies you apply for, they're going to be fast-paced and results-focused in the advertising market. So they want to see that same mindset in their employees. So if you can just try and get across that you are results-driven and you are capable of working in that fast-paced environment, it can be just from your own experience with part-time jobs or the uni course itself, but they just want to see that that's how you're focusing as well. And then finally, to be creative. It's quite a congested market and companies receive lots of applications. So perseverance and creativity do get noticed and are likely to yield results over an emailed CV and cover letter. That's not to say don't send your CV and cover letter to companies. That's still a good way to get jobs, but it doesn't need to be some big creative things. But if you focus on your own skills and experience and find a way to stand out, then, for example, if you're going for a creative job, then you might not want to just send a Microsoft Word written bog standard CV. You might want to make it look a bit more creative. I know that when I was doing mine, I used Canva, and they had a lot of templates on there that just made it look a bit more attractive to look at and organised the format of the CV in a bit of a more clever way. And I definitely realised from when I changed my CV to that one-page CV I used on Canva, I got more responses than I did before when I was using just my two-page Word-written CV. They're just a few key points, but if you have any questions, want any more tips, or even if it's just the interview processes we went through to get the job, or any more questions about our company or the industry, then feel free to either unmute yourself and ask, or just type it in the chat box and then we can answer them for you.
Oh, I've got a question. What kind of work experience did you do and how did you get it? I'll go first. I just emailed a couple of companies and said, like, are you looking for, because obviously you do work experience for free to get on your CV. Some of them do pay, but I personally did mine for free, and usually if you've got skills and they're going to get some free work out of it, they're usually quite open for it. So I'd quite an interest in like fashion and clothing lines, so I just emailed loads of different ones, and eventually one of them replied. It doesn't have to be super formal, like sending a CV and stuff. Like, you can just message them on LinkedIn as well, or ring up. But I think just maybe contact as many as you can, because then you've got a lot more choice then.
Yeah. I did a similar thing for one of my work experiences. We did a magazine through the uni. It's called Neutral, and there was a company in York called United by Design that ran it. So they'd come into the uni, so I'd already knew them. So I just emailed them to ask if they had any opportunities for work experience coming up. And then I went there for a few weeks in summer, and I did the same with a few other companies. I just emailed my interest in looking, and a few don't reply, but if you carry on, then eventually one will pop up that's a fit. And to get just a few weeks in, I think it's good to have some work experience.
I did mine work experience through ITV, so it wasn't necessarily a case of emailing a lot of companies. They have a very set work experience. It was called Work Inspiration, and again, it was an over the summer, I think it's 4 weeks, and it was a very set thing, which then I did an apprenticeship at ITV, and because I'd done the Work Inspiration at ITV, obviously I already slightly knew people and I already had a couple of relationships, so there's definitely different ways that you can go about getting some work experience behind you, depending on what it is that you want to do.
Any more questions?
Oh, what made you stand out at interviews?
Good question. I think something one of my lecturers said to me at uni stuck in my head, because it was a marketing course. She said, if you're going for marketing jobs, you can't get the job if you can't market yourself. So she said, you need to sell yourself and don't be modest. So I think you had to go in with that mindset of being confident and don't be worried about overselling your skills. You need to make yourself look the best you can possible. So always go that extra mile to make sure that you're putting across that you'll put a lot of effort into the job. I think work ethic is a big starter, and just that you get across in the interview that you're gonna be a hard worker and that you're passionate about the job.
Yeah, I think it is a lot about personality. Obviously, like, everyone's going to be going for different jobs that's listing, but like in agency environments, when you are client facing, like you just need like a certain type of personality, and like you need to be like Molly says, like you need to be enthusiastic. Like if you look eager for the job, like sometimes it doesn't really matter about the experience that you've had. Like if you're eager to learn and it's something that you've got an interest in, they're always more likely to teach you and like build you up with them, rather than like you're having to go in with like all this like amazing experience and skills when you're just starting out, because they really don't expect you to have that.
No, not at all, obviously. So I manage this team, so I've interviewed quite a lot of people in the company, and when I'm looking for, you know, people, especially if I know it's sort of the first job and they've just left university, I'm not expecting you to know everything. I'm quite happy to teach you everything you need to know, you know, to be within our company. So for me, it's showing that little bit of extra something that somebody else might not have. So it may be that straight out of university you've done the Google Garage certificate, or you know what the IPA is, or just mentioning that, you know, you've been on websites and you've read case studies, as opposed to just thinking you've got a degree and so you're set for life and somebody's going to offer you a job, because it is a hard, you know, industry, and it's a very cluttered market. So just showing that little bit of extra something, you know, that you've thought about it, you've looked at case studies, you've gone that extra mile, and straight away I'd be thinking, you know what, I'd want them on my team because you've gone that extra mile without having the job. If you're on my team, you're going to continue to go that extra mile and obviously flourish within my team and within the company. Any other questions?
Has anyone got any for Rebecca as well about the university? No, I don't think so.
I think one thing I'd just say extra about the interview process as well is you never know what they're going to ask you, but there are a few questions that I saw at a few interviews crop up again and again, sort of what your strengths and what your weaknesses. And I think we were talking about this before, that what are your weaknesses is quite a difficult question to answer. You don't go in all of your weaknesses, so you need to do it in more of a strategic way, where you kind of say your weakness as a backhanded strength almost. Like sometimes maybe because you're so passionate about things, you can take longer to do it because you're a perfectionist, but that it's something you're working on. Or I think Meg, what was yours that you gave in your interview?
I think I said that I get quite hooked on an idea, and like I get quite passionate about it, and I get a bit of tunnel vision, and I find it hard. Like if it changes halfway through, I find it hard to like switch my idea. So like in teamwork, like if the idea's been going for so long and then someone comes in and doesn't like it and changes it, I'd get annoyed. But like I was like, it's just something that I had to work on.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think we've had another question.
How do you think COVID-19 is going to affect the advertising industry?
I'll take this one. So this has been quite an interesting one to look at. Obviously, we're on lockdown, so all of out of home is either, you know, been cancelled or been moved because nobody's allowed out of the home, which is slowly changing now. TV is a massive one that's grown. Obviously, we're all at home. We've had nothing to do apart from watch TV. Whether you're working at home, whether you know you're meant to be at uni, you're not there anymore. There's a lot of people who's been furloughed, and we have nothing to do other than watch TV. So TV is on the rise. So I found a couple of stats this morning actually. video on demand, which is obviously ITV Hub, All 4, and Sky as well that you get off your box. It's up 45% since the lockdown started, which is massive. We just don't see growth of that size. And TV viewing is up massively, but the biggest growth at 51% is those light TV viewers. So it may be people who work in London who don't necessarily get the time to watch TV, maybe busy parents, or students who don't necessarily sit down in front of the TV and watch it live. They've been the biggest growth. So TV is definitely a growth market, obviously because we're just at home. And digital as well on the back of that. We're all sat on our phones and our laptops trying to find something to do. So social media and digital has increased as well.
Yeah, it'll probably take a while to bounce back because obviously everything's going to be very phased with coming back. So like radio's probably seeing a bit of an increase now with a lot more people driving. But I think because radio is a source of news, I think that stayed pretty standard as well and become kind of more of like a community thing. Obviously people sat at home, even like people on their own, like listening to the radio is kind of a bit of company as well. So yeah, I think the tone of everything is a little bit different now, but I think it will definitely bounce back as everything goes back to normal. I don't really see any extreme effects that would be long term, but we'll just have to keep an eye on the data.
Like Amy was saying before, a lot of the effects are more seen within the product categories as well. So, for example, like food retail, you'll probably see yourself are advertising a lot more. They're trying to get people on board with how they're applying the social distancing guidelines, whereas travel has taken a hit, retail and hospitality. So they might take a while to invest back into advertising as they start to reopen again. But we're expecting, once places reopen, them wanting to put into advertising because they're going to need to get the word back out there that they are open and bring in those sales again.
Yeah, so there's companies like KFC who obviously we didn't see them for 2 months advertising, and the other day watching TV, they had an ad where they were showing DIY people, trying to make KFC at home, and the message simply was, you can leave it now, we're back, just come to us, stop doing it yourself, which I think is brilliant. And we've also got this mentality of potentially people just wanting normality back. So things like cinemas when they open, there's a lot of films that have gone straight to Sky box office, but there's also films that's been delayed. So things like James Bond, which was meant to be the biggest film of this whole year, was meant to be in April, and it then got moved to November. I'm not sure if it's been moved back further, but things like that obviously we'll then see a spike in cinema spend because people are just wanting to get back to normality. And I think this time next year we'll sort of have forgot about it, and I think the advertising market will be pretty much the same as it was before all this happened. But yeah, there's some definite increases and decreases in the market. So again, just noting things like that. So all the TV stats, like Meg said, are on ThinkBox. So if you just have a look at ThinkBox, just find a couple of different stats. And again, if you've got an interview soon, if you may be in your final year, again, using stats like that and understanding what's gone on at a time when you weren't even in the industry is a massive, massive plus for employers.
Oh, challenging audiences. I like this question.
Oh, for me, okay, so one of the most challenging audiences for me are probably business audiences, I would say, purely because they are very time poor. They're cash rich, but time poor. So you need to really focus on the type of media that you're reaching them. I think if you say maybe like, 1634s or young audiences, it's quite easy, you know where they're going to be, they're quite predictable. But I think business audiences, they're very affluent, they're very time poor, they don't really sit down and watch TV like everybody else, they're not on social media like anybody else. So thinking exactly where you're going to find them is sort of, it's moving away from the normality of your ITVs, and it's moving towards things that you probably never have heard of, such as Bloomberg and CNN, looking at the stock markets and things like that. You've got to sort of think on a different level. So for me, that would be one of the most challenging audiences that I think we plan against. But again, being in the industry, once you've planned it once and you get that feel of where that audience is, it is very easy to then sort of replicate it for different clients.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it is interesting when you get like a range of different audiences. Like we've had like vegan parent products and all sorts, where like they want to be like really, really specific, and it's surprising how specific you can actually be. So like, for example, with TV, we can use Sky Ad Smart. We can target people with specific interests based on like what they bought on their Nectar card. So like we can use like the Nectar card data to see what they bought in the supermarket. So if someone has been buying like parent products, we can send ads directly to their Sky boxes, and like it's just mad the amount of detail that you can go into now, and it's only getting stronger. So it's like with digital, like digital's really, really, really targeted, but everything else is kind of catching up to the amount of targeting that you can do on digital. But yeah, like Amy said, like after you do the research, like it's quite fun to get a new audience, because you get to do the research and find out. But then once you've done it, yeah, like you've kind of got all the insights that you need.
Yeah, and then I think sometimes, as well as the actual audience type, the geography can make things quite difficult. If you've got an audience in London, there's so many opportunities with the underground, that standout advertising. But sometimes clients come with smaller, like little towns that you might not have even heard of, and then you have to think about how to advertise in a town you might not have even seen or be familiar with. So we do have in-house mapping systems where we can find out-of-home billboards within a certain town. We can map them against locations if you want them in proximity to shops. So once you use the tools, it makes things a bit easier to get to grips with. But you definitely, if something's London, then it's straight away, you know, what options are there. But sometimes you have to dig a bit deeper to find how you can target them. The TV regions, that where you can segment it, where you can't. So you've just got to put in a bit more extra time sometimes, but it's fun when it's more of a challenge, because
especially in different countries. Try and find business audiences in Portugal, that's a challenge.
We'll get quite a lot of international briefs, and then that becomes, with the language barriers, and it becomes even more of a challenge.
Yeah, it's good fun. Any more?
No.
I think that might be all the questions now. Rebecca, is there anything else that you wanted to add on the end?
She might be typing. No.
No, I don't think so.
No.
Okay, well, thanks for listening. I hope we helped in some way.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Well, if you've got any more questions, if you want to find us on LinkedIn, or get our contact off Rebecca, that's fine. You can ask us any more questions if you've got any.
Brilliant. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody, for coming.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.